polymaths and polymathic people. It's Sunday morning where I am, and I am looking very casual today, aren't I? I've been reflecting a lot about the state of the world today, and my heart is broken. There's so much in our world that's not working. This economy is not working. Healthcare is not working like it should, too profit-driven. Our criminal justice system is really messed up and unjust. The state of education is not so great, very old school, not made for the new world. Everywhere you look, there are problems. Everywhere you look, there's human suffering. Go all across the world, you're going to find human suffering everywhere you go. Poverty is rampant on planet Earth. We are damaging our planet so badly that she's trying to expel us. And it'll take some time. But if we don't start treating Mother Earth better, she gonna get rid of us. And she's already started rebelling with the weather events, that she's giving us to let us know she's not happy with us. So the world is really screwed up. It's heartbreaking to look at the truth of it. You may be surviving it just fine in your little pocket of reality. But if you were to look across the globe, you'd find that many people are suffering. Trauma is rampant. Mental illness is rampant. Poverty is rampant. Addiction is rampant. Humans are not at their best. Everything has become about profit. Our economic systems have led to some unintended consequences, I think. We've got to figure out an economic system that can work better. There are many things that need fixing. And guess what? We don't know the solutions. The solutions have to be figured out. How do you solve problems you've never had to contend with before? How do you find solutions that are completely new that you've never had to use before? The problems of yesteryear weren't as complex as the ones we have in current day. What do you do when you don't know what to do? And the answer is obvious. You have to learn your way to a new plan, to a new solution, to a new world. You have to understand what's wrong deeply and broadly, holistically, in its entirety, as a system of interrelated crises. The metacrisis isn't one crisis, it's many interrelated problems, which I would argue came to be because of the age of specialization. And, greed. The downside of capitalism is that it's just never enough, I guess. Like, when do you have enough wealth? And wealth has become really unequally distributed. We got to figure that out. There's just too many people that don't get their needs met. And when you put a human being in survival mode, they'll do unsavory things to each other to make it, to survive. And then we devolve into a hell on earth. The solution is we got to learn our way to a new world. We need the best and brightest polymathic geniuses alive today in on that effort, along with deep specialist experts as needed to consult with. We need to revive the polymath geniuses from past and the best and brightest minds from the past through the use of artificial intelligence. We need to synthesize large data sets and reach consilience, which is the unity of all knowledge. Polymaths are the people who can do that. That's how they think. Polymaths are Renaissance people with versatile capabilities across disciplines, lifelong, life-wide learning. It's related to systems thinking. These are the people really good at learning. So if we have to learn our way to a new solution, we need people who are really good at learning. and sense makers, storytellers. Also, we need facilitators of this effort. Like, we need to start organizing differently, because here's what I'm pretty sure is true. Now, test me, disagree with me if you will. But if you look at planet Earth as a single thing, the basic level of division that we did was we created 195 different countries, each of which is somewhat or very dysfunctional. And they become so big that even within government, the left hand doesn't know what the right hand's doing. And so it behaves stupidly and ineffectively and inefficiently. Like, the bureaucratic design of government is not intended to grapple with the age of complexity that we exist in. That government design was made for much simpler times, but we haven't upgraded how we govern, how we self-organize. So we've got 195 different countries, each of which is dysfunctional. And oh, by the way, about a quarter of them are in hostilities with one another. And we've had global warming and some of these problems around for a long time. Governments have had decades to fix these things, and they haven't. They're inept, they're incapable. And the meta-crisis continues, and human suffering is on the rise, if you would ask me. More and more people are falling into being homeless or unhoused. People are struggling to find work. AI has been a disruptive factor in all this, of course. The labor market is shifting. What do humans do? What does AI do? These were all things, by the way, that were entirely predictable. Kurzweil told us this was coming. I knew this was coming for decades. I prepared myself. But a lot of people didn't know and didn't prepare themselves. And a lot of people became specialists. And now if their jobs have been automated, they're really screwed. And it's so important to be multi-capable, especially in this day and age. Because once your work becomes automated, you need a fallback option, don't you? We got to all keep our mental capacities capable, and we do that through lifelong, life-wide learning to keep things working. Like, learning is exercise for the mind, for the brain. So the world's fucked up, and it's getting worse. The current systems and institutions we have in place to grapple with the needs of humanity are largely failing us, falling short. Problems persist, they don't get fixed. And we have to learn our way into solutions we've never had to figure out before. Who do you get in on that effort? Well, you got to get people good at learning, sense making, figuring out solutions in holistic ways. So it's obvious that that's the solution. I would like to propose to humanity that we organize an effort to begin to envision what the new world would look like. The old design of planet Earth is failing humanity. I think we need to convene a very diverse group of the best and brightest polymath geniuses alive today who understand meta-crisis problems and who can convene and start working with one another, co-learning our way, making sense together. Like, we've got to bring different perspectives, a very international group, a very multidisciplinary group, transdisciplinary group together. Bring in the experts, use AI, revive the geniuses from history through AI, have sense makers, have facilitators, and begin to organize and re-envision and reimagine what Earth could be. Like, what could planet Earth look like? What would we need to collectively do to ensure that every human being on Earth has their basic needs met? Just basic needs, like housing with plumbing and clean water and education, healthcare, safety and belonging and purpose, food, obviously, just the basics. What would we need to do to ensure that if you're born into this world, you're going to get those things, guaranteed, no matter what? No matter how dysfunctional your mommy and daddy are, no matter your country, no matter your level of wealth, no matter your skin color, no matter your sex, no matter your sexual orientation, like if you are a human being, you will have your basic needs met. And once we achieve that, imagine the human thriving that would blossom out of there. When we're in survival mode, we'll do horrible things to one another. So we got to remove survival mode situations across the globe. We have to figure that out. It may take 100 years to achieve it. I don't know. But we do need to start to have that conversation because we are a one planet, one species. We've sliced and diced ourselves into 195 countries and then become very aligned with our countries, thinking that our country and our government and our culture and our history is the best. Like everyone just assumes there's the best. There is no best. We're humans. America isn't the best. America's the biggest slaveholder in the world, our government. 2 million Americans mass incarcerated here, more than any other country on earth. And it feels like we're going backwards in some ways, especially lately. It's modern day slavery, like they're forced to work for cents an hour so private industry and government can make profit off their labor. You can invest in these companies on the stock market. So that's our government. We have modern day slavery and no one talks about it because it's good for government employees. They have, they're in the business of human enslavement and torture and trauma. They don't rehabilitate and they take a lot of money for that service that they're providing us. In fact, we spend more on prisons than schools in all 50 states. We have more prisons and jails than we have colleges in America. That is the extent of this problem. It's a humanitarian crisis, if you ask me. But this is the kind of thing that governments do and get away with. I mean, in my lineage, my mom was a child refugee from Cuba, believe it or not. And, that was traumatizing. And Castro taking over their country with communism, with force, wasn't elected, then stayed in power for decades and still is. Like, there's so much poverty there. I mean, Cuba is such a heartbreaking country for me. I went there this past March. It was hard to look at. And that's where my mama's from. So, I know you wouldn't think from looking at me, but I'm the product of an immigrant experience. And it was indeed an easy one. That immigrant experience my mom went through as a child refugee scarred her badly, messed her up. And then a few generations prior to my mom, my family was from Spain. And there was a civil war in Spain. So they fled. So it's in my lineage to have to flee our homes because of governments. Bad situations. So it's so traumatizing. I mean, that trauma lasts for generations. And we're doing this to ourselves. Why are we still at physical war with, why is that even tolerated or accepted in 2024? Why do we still have nuclear weapons on our planet? There's so much hatred. And the solution, by the way, is clear. Jesus Christ told us the solution to stop making hell on earth and start co-creating a heaven here. He made it very clear and very simple. It's love. It's to treat other people like they matter. Like you matter to you, they matter to you. So we're not a cancer, a hateful, spiteful, fearful, self-destructing cancer unto ourselves. That's what fear and greed and otherizing and hatred get us. So if we want to make a better world, we all got to start treating each other nicer. Treat other people like you'd want to be treated. Jesus told us. He was ahead of his time. He cut to the chase. That's the bottom line of this narrative of the human experience. If you guys don't want to self-destruct, If you want to save the planet, if you want to be a part of the solution, you got to be loving. That's the solution. That fixes our problems, because then it's just us versus our problems, and we figure it out in very loving, kind ways. We get out of survival mode. But how do you convince a whole human species to be loving? Because the tendency right now is to just love some, but don't love the rest. Like, people care about their in-groups, their alliances, but if you're not on their team, we'll do horrible things to one another. Look what's happening in the Middle East. We've gone crazy. We've forgotten our own moral center. So scary. I mean, oh God, when I've looked at the criminal justice system, I cannot believe how immoral that like, people go along with atrocities over there, like clear violations of conscience. It's a cesspool of human suffering in the prison system, and so many people participate in the dehumanization of prisoners, treating them like animals and just abusing them. Like, that's what they're paid by taxpayers to do, when actually we pay them to rehabilitate those people, and government fails us and still takes our money just the same. In California, it's $132,000 a year to incarcerate one person. You know what that money could do to help some families? You could help multiple families with what it takes to incarcerate one person. But, it's helping the government employees have jobs. So let's just keep up the business of human enslavement and trauma and torture. No, shift. We got to shift those jobs into something that helps people and not harms them, doesn't harm them. We've gotten off track. We've gone dumb. And the way we're organized into 195 governments is not the correct design to solve a global level metacrisis that we're in right now. And I look forward to a beautiful future, like Ray Kurzweil predicted. If you don't know about his work, you should. I know we'll get there. It's just how many people will fall in the cracks between the old world and the new world. How many people will suffer in this transition? AI's here, but we're still figuring it out. And people who weren't ready for this moment are going to suffer. So I'm going to suggest that we all do our best to, survive this moment. Do your best to take care of each other in your local circle of life. Hang on for a wild ride. Start caring. Start admitting that what I've said is true. I wish more people would talk about it. Like, everyone keeps going along with the old model, like that's going to fix anything. It has had that old model, the government structure, the bureaucracy structure, they have had their go, and the metacrisis persists. They haven't solved it. So humanity does need to reconsider, and governments could stay in place. I'm not suggesting we take them down or anything. I'm just saying, in addition to the governments that exist, humanity might want to begin to think about how we will organize ourselves intelligently to address the complex world we're in, with metacrises as our default now. There are so many people living on the streets, in cars, in tents. More and more are going to fall into that. So, and slavery persists. I mean, there some areas, some markers of human life are improving for sure. But if you're really boots on the ground looking, talking to the real world, as I do, I talk to Uber drivers all the time. I talk to members of my community on Facebook all the time. Like, I got 3 different social media brands, so I'm very tuned in to people all over the world. And I've seen 43 countries on 6 continents of the world myself. I've gone and I've looked. And our world is we could descend into chaos. I'm worried about that. So we need to nip that in the bud and avoid that and begin to strategize What we need is a strategic plan for humanity at a global scale so that every human being could have their basic needs met. That's what we need to do. We need the polymaths, the best and brightest of them. And let me clarify on that as well. I've learned a lot on this front. I wrote my doctoral dissertation on modern day polymaths. I've had a community of polymaths for 6 years. Just had an international retreat for polymaths. Intelligence alone is not it's not enough. We need people with a good heart who truly cares about humanity, who's not going to be corrupted by power or influence or money. And we need people who can get along with other people, because we're going to have to co-learn our way into new solutions. And so your ability to get along with others respectfully matters. And we also need people who aren't ego-driven, because what happens when someone's very overconfident in their own intelligence, what happens is they stop being able to learn. They get so stuck in what they know, they lose the ability to learn. So we don't want people who used to be polymathic and learn and then now are stuck in rigid knowing, because the whole point is we have to keep learning. We have to upgrade our mental models, and that may mean we have to let go of old beliefs when we learn from someone else a new perspective that's more valid than our old ideas. So we need people who are mentally flexible enough to unlearn and relearn and co-learn our way into new solutions. So ego matters and social skills matter, in addition to intelligence, your ability to learn, question, make sense of things. And we need people with a real strong ethical moral compass. Those are my criteria. Like, I'd love to organize this effort. I would. I think my background makes me a good candidate to organize this effort, because I've worked in government. I understand that machine. 15 years federal service. I was a White House intern, governor's office intern in California. Anyway, some people don't like it when I talk about my background, but for anyone who may be new here, I just want you to know, like, I spent a long time in government, so I understand that machine. I studied the criminal justice system very deeply, and I've made holistic recommendations on how to fix that broken system. So I've already started doing some of this problem solving stuff at a large scale. And my background with polymaths, it's a form of genius. And those are the people we need to work on this problem. I've understood them, been studying them for nearly a decade. I mean, I started my doctoral program in 2015. So 9 years ago is when I began researching polymathy as a human phenomenon. And those are the people we need to work on these global level meta-crises issues and think in a new way about how we do that. How do we actually solve the meta-crisis? Because I don't think anything we've got going on so far is properly designed to resolve the meta-crisis. Like, I don't think there's an entity that's doing this. And if there is, thank God. But yeah, we do need to think differently as a collective, not only about how we can step into our own potential, our own actualization more, but like, how can we design intentionally our world and systems and institutions that are designed for human thriving. If you check out my branding, it'll say reducing human suffering and enhancing human thriving, because that's what I want to spend my life working on. That is my calling, and I've spent my life trying to figure out, how do I do that? I worked in a domestic violence shelter for a chunk of my 20s, worked in government, promoted polymathy, stood up for same-sex parents, criticized the criminal justice system in America and called it out for what it is. And, a lot of these issues aren't even for my benefit. I'm doing what Christ would have wanted to have seen. I'm actually standing up for people, even when that's what it means to love, by the way. Like when you self-sacrifice and give when there's nothing in it for you, that's what it means to be Christ-like. That's what it means to be loving. So anyway, that's my thinking on this matter. Who am I to organize this effort? Who am I, But who's going to do it? Like, I don't know. I worked in government. I understand polymaths. I do think at a global scale about, human thriving and human suffering. And I consider this my start of trying to organize this effort. I had the polymath retreat in Greece last month as kind of a beta test for this effort. And I learned a lot from it. So thank you for the people who came. We had representatives from I think 7 different countries or something like that. It was so international. Maybe 6 different countries. I can't remember. Anyway, it was an interesting experience for sure. I learned a lot from it. And if you have ideas, I know this is a bold statement, a bold thing to do, a big idea. But isn't it the right idea? Doesn't it make sense that we have a metacrisis. The current systems aren't designed to solve it. It's not working. Well, what do we do next? That's my thinking. Well, what do we do next? And I think we got to organize differently now. And it's intimidating and it's hard and I'm nervous about it. I want to make sure I do the best I can to help. But sometimes I don't even know where to start. That's why I'm let me just tell you guys how I'm thinking. I'll put it out there in the world. Hopefully this will get in the right hands. Someone will come along with some funding so I can, pay people properly to be a part of this effort. We need to organize. It's time. We got to solve the metacrisis for real. All right, guys, that's all for now. Bye.